der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er vor sich. Dann ist es vielleicht noch. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der Feld. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrje!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. I'm your host, Markus Fjortoft. And as always, joined by Dad on his fourth day in Munich as he takes on the Champions League between the two Milan teams this evening. But it is the Bundesliga we are here to talk about. Now, Dad, first of all, fourth day in Munich. Are you going mad, or is it going all right?
No, it's been a busy season as I do work with the Premier League and European nights. I am in Europe anyway, so this time I didn't want to commute again because I do commute all the time. So I stay in the hotel. I stay in the hotel at the airport hotel in Munich. A lot of people will probably know that, and that is the same place where they do have the most popular sport program, most viewed sport program, Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock. I was there, Double Pass it's called, and it's a 2.5 hours football discussion program with a lot of news, with a lot of things, analysis of the Bundesliga round the day before. Great guest, a lot of journalists. This time also Jochen, who is the head of sport at Freiburg, a very nice guy and a very good guide. Freiburg losing 4-2 in the Champions League final of the small teams, and no disrespect to them. Freiburg losing that game, and Union Berlin ahead of the Champions League positions there, ahead of Freiburg. But much more interesting, Marcus, if me a hotel, you were back to county ground. Remember, Marcus is born in Swindon, in not far from county ground where you were. And I remember one of the first game you went to, I think that was Manchester United game. We played 2-2 or West Ham. I can't remember. It's like 29 years ago. And now you were back playing, Marcus.
Yeah, I was back playing. It was very special, Dad, because, you go back to a place of birth and a place that holds a lot of value for ourselves. That's undeniable. And so to be able to reconnect and be invited back to an event like that, where after all, I was born and where you scored a ton of goals as well. There was something to be said about when you come there and framing that story, so to speak, and going through to the first team changing room and seeing you in the tunnel there on the pictures. And the picture was against you and Neil Ruddock, I think, and up against Blackburn and what have you. And so that was special. And then I was able to top it off with a goal as well and do the celebration to that, which is yours. But it was the closest we'd get to you doing it. So it was special, and some really good people in and around there. So yeah, it was nice to be back, Dad.
Yeah, and a great initiative, a great charity game there. I saw you met Paul Bowden, the Welsh international who played left back for Swindon back in the days, and for the Welsh national team as well.
You're still playing left back as well.
Yeah, good left foot he had, and a good penalty takers for Swindon Town. And now it was great to see. It's a part of, I guess, every family will have their family history, and our ties to Swindon will always be there. They gave me the chance in the Premier League. They gave me the chance to play in English football that I've adored all my life. And the kind of the circle is now gone. That you're back playing a county ground, that was a great thing to see.
Yeah, it's funny how life works, isn't it, Dad? Because you were so close to going back to Norway because it was the World Cup in '94 right after that. And then, as the story goes, and I'll tell it for you, I guess, but that you did eventually score, and then they said, "Oh, please stay." And it's a nice story, but it's crazy to think how life's coincidences are, because if you went back to Norway, the chances might have been slimmer that we would even be doing this podcast, because then had a good career in England and then followed up by Germany. So yeah, it's crazy to think of and how that place had such meaning for you. But I guess we should go into the Bundesliga.
Yeah, but it's now just to end it, Marcus, before we go to the Bundesliga, because you're right. Especially in football, there are so many coincidences. You score that goal just before the end, decisive goal, you hit the post. What if? But I think if we end them in a bit philosophy, you make 30,000 decisions in a day. meaning that there is a lot of things happening. There is a pattern of things. So when you make a decision, is based a lot of other decisions. And what I loved about Swindon's story is that I had my breakthrough in English football. I scored my first goal against Tottenham Hotspurs. It was a fight against the relegation. So I think, Marcus, for us, Swindon Town back in the day. So I think we should start at the top of the Bundesliga. It's interesting to see that the top 5 leagues now, in 4 of them, the championship is already done. I mean, in France, practically done. They're 6 points ahead, 3 games to go. But you know that PSG will finally do that. Napoli won it. Barcelona won it. Manchester City more or less done it against your Arsenal. So the big excitement is now in the Bundesliga, 2 rounds to go. And I had a pleasure at the Double Pass, this program at Sport 1, to share the stage with one of the leaders of Bayern of the good old days. He's won the Champions League. He has won the Bundesliga 3 times, won the Cup a couple of times too. So I spoke to Stefan Effenberg, the Bayern legend, about the battle at the top in the Bundesliga. With one of the biggest legends of German football, Stefan Effenberg. Stefan,
thank you very much.
Dortmund and Bayern. Why will it be Bayern?
They're focused, and I think they will win both games, the last games, of course. But yeah, I hope so. But Dortmund did well.
They did well, but if they win the championship now, Bayern, you will still say that it's a okay season, or will you say okay minus?
No. Yeah, okay minus. Because when you go into the season, you will win the German Cup, of course, the Champions League, and yeah. But it's hard to win the German championship, okay? Dortmund is not so far behind, so will be very, very, very close.
And for the new season, Bayern, you won everything with them. And what do they need for the next step? Everybody talk about that number 9.
Of course, you need a number 9, a real number 9, like Lewandowski was, or you need a striker who scores 25 plus goals, who play 40 or 50 games every season. This is the biggest thing they have to change next season. Yeah.
Last question, Stefan. Yeah. I mean, everybody in the world kind of admire Bayern for the success that they had over the years. What is so special with kind of Bayern being a big global partner and at the same thing being this kind of familiar club?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have to answer many questions every day, every day, and you have to be successful for sure. But it's also a big challenge for Bayern Munich to do it better like this season, for sure.
With Stefan Effenberg, one of the greatest leaders Bayern ever have done. That is all from Jan and Stefan in Munich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Stefan Effenberg, the very authoritative figure, I say, that in Bayern's midfield, the look in the eyes, if eyes could kill, so to speak. That was him on Bayern in the title race. And like you say, it is the last remaining real title race we have in the top European leagues. Dortmund with a convincing win at home to Gladbach. No doubt about Dortmund's form, home form. We've been in on that. Bayern with a convincing win against Schalke. Schalke giving their rivals no favors there. Now we have an upcoming fixture in which Dortmund go back away to Augsburg, a tricky away fixture. Augsburg pretty much, they need a point or so, and then they're safe, which will be more than enough incentive for them. And then you have Bayern playing Leipzig. The big talking point, though, Dad, is that with Bayern dominating in Schalke and with Thomas Müller in the center of all occasions, there's again rumblings of him leaving. And we've had this conversation before, haven't we, Dad, a couple of years ago, in which he was going to leave. But I mean, a different conversation of that. I'd love to hear what you make of it. But 33 years old, but could you provide some context as to what Thomas Müller is to Bayern? Because when you have a CEO, a sporting director coming out, meeting with him, it is a rather special situation.
Thomas Müller is FC Bayern. Thomas Müller is they say the Urgestein, but he was immer here. Oh, that was German and English in one sentence. He was always here, I wanted to say. And Manuel Neuer, one of the old experienced players as well, but he came from Schalke, remember. Thomas Müller has always been there. The problem, Mark, is with all older players, someday it will got to an end. Someday you have to retire. They had that with Philipp Lahm. Philipp Lahm, he decided to retire. Bastian Schweinsteiger got a chance to go to Manchester United, so that was a kind of a golden handshake for him. But Thomas Müller, he will stay on. And Julian Nagelsmann put him out of the team at some games. Tuchel is doing the same. And the press in Germany, they love Thomas Müller. He can get now his 12th Bundesliga title. And they always want him to play. But I always ask myself then, if the journalists want him to play, why? They say that can't happen without Müller. They say, we can't win without Müller. They say that all the time in the German media. And if I love Thomas Müller. He's so funny to interview. He's a great character. He's a personality and everything. But I just ask myself sometimes, they won in Bremen without him. Germany played at Qatar with him. So it's a truth that is not 100% truth. And what Thomas Tuchel is saying is that kind of he praised him to death, if you understand what I'm saying. He's the best player. I love him. But against Manchester City, against the big teams, he didn't play him. Then he played him against Dortmund, remember that home game where they won and he scored 2 goals. So this is ongoing. Now, typical Thomas Müller, he came, played in the starting 11 against Schalke, played brilliantly, scored a typical Thomas Müller goal with his inside, a bit like right in the far corner, typical Thomas Müller. His way of playing is very contagious for the team. He's a great lad. And now I just read all the German papers before I came on, Marcus. I'm still old-fashioned, so when I'm in Germany, I buy the papers, and they're like, "Can he play against Leipzig? Can he play against Leipzig?" Because if you're going to believe Tuchel, he wants quicker players there. Mind you, in a longer perspective, Marcus, it's a quite serious question because Thomas Müller could block the position for Musiala, who is one of the biggest talent in Europe. So there is a tactical thing to it. On the same time, there is a kind of media populistic kind of way. Because sometimes, and I love to annoy the German journalists, of course, you know me, I'm a annoyer. And then I'll say, but if that's true, why isn't Beckenbauer still playing? You always won with Beckenbauer. You always won with Karl-Heinz Rummenigge playing. So you can take that on. And just at the end, Marcus, I guess this is the only club in the world where a player is not playing. Yes, the model is different in Germany, but it's the only club in the world with a CEO. I'm not CEO of sport, the CEO of the whole club, Oliver Kahn, and Salihamidzic, the head of sport. They are having a meeting when Thomas Tuchel is not there, saying, you're so valuable for us, and so on and so on. So Thomas Müller, I do love him, but don't underestimate his way of playing the media. Don't underestimate him looking after himself too. But never underestimate Thomas Müller. I think that's going to be the general conclusion on that. I think that it could be a key factor for them now going into the 2 last games.
Yeah, I get that sense too. I think he is a jolly figure, but I think, let's not underestimate his way of framing the narrative, right?
No.
And that is football. We all look out for ourselves to some extent. Following up on that Bayern point, Dad, you have been in Germany these last few days, and you also had a section on the TV in which they went through your previous tweets, your previous statements on Bayern. For those not familiar, could you please fill us in on what that was?
Well, first of all, sometimes I think people don't remember or don't understand that I'm in the German media when I'm here as a guest. I'm the only Ausländer, the only foreigner. So I'm sitting there with my I speak good German, but still you're sitting there and you kind of opposition. You're kind of the guy who dared to say a couple of things because on Thursday I'm going back to Norway, so I don't have to be here. My parents are not living here. Nobody lives here. I give a beep. I don't mind. But it was interesting because I didn't know about that. So what I did, they took me off the stage, sat me with Jana at Sportline. She's responsible for all the social media, and I went through all my tweets in the Haaland affair. They took me through all the tweets in the Lewandowski affair, saying correct. Okay, good for me. And then they did the tweet that I did on Oliver Kahn, and I was then putting the bridge into the discussion. Will Jan be right again? So they put me on that stage on that. And I said, as I do know, I'm not a Fabrizio Romano, I'm not a Christian Falk, but I'm a guy who speaks to an awful lot of people. And people after that tweet, what I did at Oliver Kahn, saying that they look for another candidate. I've got a lot of telephone calls, I got a lot of messages confirming what I said, and even give the story more feet to run on. They're now going to have this meeting that was just normal meeting is now delayed to the 30th of May. I do know that Bayern are looking for a candidate to fill his boots. I do know that everybody else knows that Uli Hoeneß, who is the Don Corleone of Bayern Munich, hasn't said a word yet. Can Oliver Kahn keep on his job? Of course he can. I have no idea. I have no votes. I will not sit in the board meeting. I just know that they're looking for another candidate. So it's going to be exciting to see. And I know I put my head forward to that, but I can only say that when I tweet, I do never lie. I just tell people what I've been told, and I try to get everything as good as possible confirmed. And it's been interesting, Marcus, and we talked about this. In the last 4 months, something have happened that I haven't seen before. Clubs try to get in touch to spin things. Clubs try to get in touch to kind of influence, give their kind of background on a story. Yeah, that's fine, because I don't care about that, because I think that is interesting. I have my opinions. I have my own, and I need all the information that I can get. So it's quite interesting to sometimes to be a football pundit.
And when you said that, I mean, you're not surprised, but at the same time you are, because there are, like anything else with the Thomas Müller case, with a brand beyond football, you are controlling the brand, the narrative. And well, one example being the Haaland case yesterday, in which I know that they brought up as an example in which you were correct, in which Bayern did deny their involvement, did deny their interest in Haaland. Of course, they were interested, and of course, they did everything they could to make that happen, as you reported.
Bayern said, A, we weren't interested, checked wrong. B, we wouldn't pay him a lot of money. Well, now it came out that they wanted to pay him an awful lot of money. Did Lewandowski know about it? I said yes, and it was. It's not like me clapping. It's just I know that.
No.
And it's a funny thing that I've told the story before, but when this was going on at its worst, it was very intense. I worked with Bayern. I was doing the interviews. So I waited for an interview with Robert Lewandowski. We're just waiting to get the space available. So I went over to Robert. I hugged him around like this. And I said to him, just as you know, I know everything. I know what's going on. I can understand that you are big time frustrated. So that is also football. That is a part of the football. And sometimes, Marcus, when you have a good contact netzwerk, which the Germans are saying, network around, sometimes that can be limited as well, because you can know a lot of things that you have promised not to say. So sometimes you have the Chatham House rule. You know a lot of things, don't say who said it, but still it's a part of me analyzing different situations. So I think people could be aware that I will never lie, but it's not always I will tell the whole truth, because I've been asked not to do that. And sometimes that's how you have to work. And at least that is what I have to like to work. And I never speculate.
On that topic, you mentioned Robert Lewandowski, who did win the La Liga this past weekend, while Bayern are struggling more than they are used to try and win theirs. Also, I guess nothing could that represent Lewandowski's departure, not only from Bayern, but also from the Bundesliga, if we look at the top scorer list as well, right? So Robert Lewandowski won the Golden Boot the last 2 years, I believe. I'm looking it up now, 35 goals last season, 41 goals the previous season. Well, he won it. He won it 1, 2, 3. He won it the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So with an incredible amount of goals, should have won the Ballon d'Or when it got cancelled. Whatever. This year, our favorite, of course, no disputing it, Nico Füllkrug, been fantastic. Scored goals for Germany in the World Cup. Scored for Germany in other decisive games. Injured now, which has contributed to this low tally, 16 goals. And I was looking through the top scorer list. I mean, the closest we have is Freddie Bobic, a good friend, back in Stuttgart in 95, 96. But this has been a low-scoring league. And in second, you have Vincenzo Grifo, who doesn't even play striker almost for Freiburg. So it's, as a striker, it's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. And Füllkrug would have statistically got more. It would be around 20 if we know his race for the title. But it's interesting because he got 16, Muani got 14. Muani, that people say is worth between 100, 120 million euros, scored 14 goals. And then he is 27 after the record of Robert Lewandowski, or 21 after one of his previous. He called a Torjägerkanone. It's like a goal-getter gun that they get a unbelievable. People could Google it and see how it looks like, because it's like funny. Torjägerkanone. Gnabry just scored a couple of goals now, and then before that it was Musiala, the 20-year-old playing the midfield, who was a top scorer at Bayern Munich. So I guess that symbolizes what they are lacking at that club. Thuram as well up there. So yeah, but I still think that Gnabry has a chance, because Bayern will probably score more goals than the others. So it's going to be interesting to see who win the Torjägerkanone. It's very prestigious to win that. Everybody will love to have that in their house. Having said that, Marcus, if I can do a bridge, I know we're going to discuss Glasner. I just want to say that two rounds to go, zwei Spieltage in the German Bundesliga. I don't like this thing in the Premier League and the Bundesliga, that the second last round is not on the same time. Okay, in the top it's okay. Bayern is playing Leipzig on Saturday, and then Dortmund for the third time, I guess, are playing the day after. So first of all, Bayern could be champions in the sofa. They can watch that, because if they beat Leipzig, Dortmund got to win in Augsburg, in Augsburg, which I would say could be the big hurdle for them anyway. But also in the bottom part of the Bundesliga, yes, the last round will be at the same time, but both in England and in Germany, there are so many decisive games coming up. Why is that important? That is important because should you risk a player? What is the strategy you follow in the game? Should you go with 3 strikers? Should you give with 2 strikers? The risk you do. I'm not saying that is not 100%. I also say that will maybe equal itself in time of a whole season, but it's not right, because the 2 last rounds should be played on the same time. This coming from a guy who have a lot of his living from TV companies. I know that the TV companies will love that there is a big battle in top 4, both in the Bundesliga and the Premier League. There is a big fight now with the bottom who will go down, and even in Germany then the title race. But I don't like it. I think that they should be decided on the same time, and then maybe people will say, yeah, but it's the third last round that could be decisive, as we saw this round. But let's start with the second thing, because I don't think it's right now for teams to know that what they have to do, and also take a bit excitement of some games, because you could end up, for example, now with with Leipzig knowing what they have to do, because the game on Friday, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a game, so Leipzig could go to Munich in a theory, knowing, because they're playing 6:30, because it's the Topspiel, they could go to Bayern knowing that they're in the Champions League anyway.
Freiburg play Wolfsburg on the Friday. That's
exactly. Why. So if Freiburg doesn't win that, they will be 100% in the Champions League, which can affect the title race. So I don't like that, but let's just hope that it won't be decisive. But going to Glasner, Marcus, you've seen it from outside. I'm a bit more inside, so you can take the overview on that.
No, well, I will reflect the populace's perception, because I'll be part of that. Is that Glasner has had tremendous success with Eintracht, no doubt about it. Led them to European glory, which was a fantastic cup. I mean, despite Frankfurt's disappointing Bundesliga season, them finally winning now at the weekend, can take them to cup glory, and then again another European spot, which will be difficult against a in-form RB Leipzig team. But for the comment, yes, from the outside, you look at it and you think, well, he's done fantastic. And then you see some tensions from within, and then think, okay, on one hand, you've really accomplished all you can with Eintracht. I'd argue that their potential is even higher. I think they should be a regular top 4 contender, considering the city they're in, the resources, the stadium, the fans, etc. So you could argue, okay, he's done all he can, but at the same time, you think, oh, well, where's the gratitude? Where does Glasner rank among, overall coaching performances at Eintracht Frankfurt? But from what I understand, that there is more to it than that.
Well, there are always more to it than people think in any club. And I think to start with, just to underline what you're saying, when Oliver Glasner's name will be written into the Eintracht Frankfurt history, he will be there up with golden letters. He's been doing fantastic with them. It's like you said, a year ago winning the Europa League, 10 months ago playing Super League final against Real Madrid, 6 months ago playing Champions League with Eintracht Frankfurt, which is unbelievable. And in 2 weeks' time, playing Pokalfinale in Berlin against RB Leipzig, can win another title. But then in the Bundesliga, there have been 10 games without winning. And you know how it's like when you're not winning games, things start to kind of come up. Then all the negative things coming up. And in February, Markus Krösche, who is the head of sport at Frankfurt, offered him a new contract. His contract is for another year. They offered him to extend it. Oliver Glasner was doubting that a bit. And as I understand it, and I'm careful with my words now, as you know that Eintracht Frankfurt is my club, as I understand it, sometimes the coach, he wants finished articles. He wants player to make him better now. Why is that important for a coach? Because he is judged on now. That is the problem with a coach. A head of sport will have to think in a longer perspective. You have to build up young players, and then you have the typical dilemma. A head of sport will say that try to develop the young players we're having. A coach, I say first in general now, will always say that they're not good enough. And then you will have the dilemma about the work that the head of sport has done and the head of or the coach is doing on the training pitch. And Oliver Glasner have had some statement in the media, now seen retrospect, you see it in the mirror, what he said. He said, for example, after the Union game, you can't coach quality, you can't train quality. Well, I thought that was a part of being a coach, to get him to the next stage, as he did with Jesper Lindström, as he done with Moani. So I tried to make the case for both here. I just tried to show you the things that are going on at the club every day, the whole year long, because short-term, long-term perspective, with the planning long-term, winning short-term term, as Rehagel, my favorite quote man, say. So it's interesting to see that builds up when you lose football games or you don't win football games. And you got a feeling when you see Eintracht Frankfurt that the connection between the players and Oliver Glasner wasn't perfect. And then with all these things building up, and it seems to be a tension between the head of sport and the head of coach, or sorry, the coach, there is always just one winner, because a coach is there to win football games, fair enough, but a head of sport will always be there to build for the future. The thing is that when a head of sport don't feel that you're finding the philosophy of the club, Eintracht Frankfurt is not there. They can buy finished players. Muani, nobody knew him when he came, more or less. Lindström the same, who's taking the next step. Now they got to replace Kamada. They need 1 or 2 defenders. So it's a classic dilemma. Thank God they didn't end up firing him now, 2-3 weeks before the Pokal finale. I think that was good. The problem for Glasner, Marcus, and I have to note that I like Glasner. I've interviewed him. I have a good expression of him. I can't say how he is behind in the dressing room. I can't tell you that. I'm just saying that it is not a good thing for Glasner that is now ending his career at Frankfurt at the same way that he ended his career at Wolfsburg. There he had experienced head of sport in Schmatke. Now he has a younger sports Vorstand head of sport.
Schmatke has his own kind of, he's had tensions in the past with other coaches, of course, but that
so people just saw that or that. Well, a typical Schmatke. The problem now for Glasner, I'm not saying right or wrong because I can't tell you, but his thing now is typical Glasner. And you see that with Julian Nagelsmann now being linked to a lot of English clubs. There is a kind of thing that he can't work with big players or big teams that is in Bayern. Not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying that could be the narrative. Do we say that in English? That could be the narrative that you have to build on. In terms of sport, one of the greatest coaches ever won the Europa League with Eintracht Frankfurt and can now win the cup win. I hope for him that it will be a great ending for him. It was interesting now that he was not only this situation was sorted, but he was suspended because he kicked the ball onto the field in the last game, so he was in the stands, and they won 3-0. Someone can say that was some energy that got loose in the dressing room. Others could say that Glasner would have sorted that out anyway, and only time will tell who's right.
Yeah, on that ending point, so to speak, it's one of those as a club, and you've been there as a sporting director as well, where to what degree do you let a coach dictate, right? Because a club will certainly outlast the coach, and with average tenures being no less than 1.5 years, 3 years. I mean, 3 years is regarded as a long time. He's been there since 2021, mind you. There is that internal conflict, so to speak, that strife between what you need now and what you need in the future, what kind of legacy you build as a club, where's the philosophy. I think Eintracht Frankfurt certainly have a philosophy, and that can't be said about all clubs. What do they stand for? Where are they headed? Which is important for identity, but also sustainability of a club model, right? So
exactly. And people, well said. And for English listeners, Germany have another model. They have a head of sport. The head of sport's responsibility is the long term. It's the philosophy, just to see that the philosophy of the club is followed. It may be based on a plan, it's maybe based on a virtual plan, or it's an actual plan. And Marcus Krös's job is to see that is followed. If he sees that the coach is not following it, he has to act. That is what they do in Germany. That is a German model. Glasner would say, of course, disagree. He would say that the best thing in a long term for Eintracht Frankfurt is to win Europa League, be in the Champions League, be in the Super League final, get himself into a Pokal finale again. So that is a classic dilemma when you have that kind of system. Sometimes people wish they were way back when a coach decided everything. I don't think that is the answer either.
If we come to the end here, Dad, I was just thinking one of the points we haven't touched upon conclusively is the Zweite Bundesliga as well. We've touched upon the bit in the bottom. Just to conclude, the Bundesliga, the bottom of the Bundesliga is that Hertha got the one between the bottom teams is Hertha play at home to Bochum. Hertha can, if they win, still be within a chance of at least getting a qualifying relegation playoff. That is a game. And then you have Stuttgart playing Hoffenheim at home at the last game. Those are the ones that you should look out for of the games between the relegation contenders, and then they go elsewhere and what have you. But we can get lost in that whole, arrangement. But if we go for the people or the clubs that can replace these clubs, we've discussed it briefly before in Darmstadt, Heidenheim, and Hamburg, and there have been new developments. And can Hamburg get the direct promotion spot? Who knows? They're currently in third. Give us the outlay, Dad.
Yeah, it's before we just have a funny look to it, because first of all, Hamburger Sportverein, HSV, is one of the biggest clubs in Germany. They were out of the Bundesliga for 5 years, and they were never outed before that. They have a clock ticking saying how long they've been in the Bundesliga. They had to take that clock away. This is the club of Kevin Keegan, Felix Magath, Manfred Kaltz, Horst Rubisch, winning. It was just a jubileum now because they won the Champions League against Juventus, the great Juventus team. Was it 83? Well, I'm not 100%. Felix Magath scoring the winner. I read a great article about that yesterday. But they can't get out. So they always end up being in a relegation position. That is the third position. They always, in the first two-thirds of the season, then it getting worse. And then they ending up being in the relegation game. And like last season, they played Hertha Berlin. Felix Magath being the fireman at Hertha Berlin, knocking his, which he called the club in my heart, down. So now we all thought that when everything was sorted, nothing will happen more. Heidenheim, that nobody knows where is, nobody know how big the club is. Darmstadt, just outside Frankfurt and Mainz, will get in small clubs, but done a fantastic job. So what happened this weekend was as follow. I just put my glasses on. Paderborn 3, Heidenheim 2. So Heidenheim losing.
Paderborn have been in terrible form, by the way. They were
terrible form. Yeah. Hannover 2, Darmstadt 1. So that was all up to the Hamburger Sportverein playing the Regensburg. Regensburg 1, HSV 5. And Marcus, just some fun fact. The guy that played in your first football game of all time, Sonny Kittel, who played for Eintracht Frankfurt in the under 6?
Under 6, under 7. I think I played with a higher age group. So
yeah. I remember your first game, winning 6-1, and you scored a goal. I remember being a proud dad, you scoring for Frankfurt. But Sonny Kittel, who's been a bit in and out of the team, he's been a lot of injuries in his career. But first of all, a great lad. He's called Sonny. His name is Sonny, but he's a Sonny guy. And I must say, I have his number, so I texted him after the game. He said hello, scoring 2 goals. And now before the last 2 games of the season, Darmstadt got 64 points, Heidenheim 61, HSV 60. And Darmstadt, the worst goal difference, but they got 3 points ahead. Heidenheim the best with 29 plus goals, and Hamburger Sportsman 23. But I've been watching all the game. They're all playing well teams they got to beat. But we saw this round that doesn't, and probably Hamburg. We can see what's happening. Hamburg in the last game, they would be 3-1 up, knowing that they have the win, and then in the 89th minute it will be 3-2. There will be panic, and then in 90 plus 7. It will hit someone in the back of his head, and it will be 3-3, and they have to get out to the relegation battle again. That is the name of the game of the Hamburger Sportverein 2023.
Yeah, Heidenheim in second. They're playing the bottom 2.
Yeah,
so, but these things, nerves get in. Like you can't really. They played them in the middle of the season. A totally different story.
Yeah.
Also, just to end that note, when you mentioned the fact that I played with Sonny Kittel, I do remember playing my first game against Eintracht Frankfurt. I also do remember I played under a lot of managers, and I played under a lot of managers. My last 2 seasons in Scotland, I played under 6 managers. So, but I don't think I've ever had a crazier coach than my under 6 coach. You remember him?
Yeah, I remember.
This guy treated us like a professional team. We were 6 years old. I don't understand German. Well, you have one story. I remember being late for training once. Mom was driving. We had to pay a fine, euros, what have you. But also that story in which we win. And he keeps us in for what, another hour while the parents are waiting. Isn't that how the story goes?
Yeah, that's the story goes. And I remember him because this was the time when Felix Magath was the head coach of Eintracht Frankfurt. So he kind of got the mandate to coach you guys, 6-year-olds for Eintracht Frankfurt as a professional team. I think an hour was a bit too long, but I remember being so annoyed because I think you won 6-2 or 6-3 in that game. But he wasn't happy, so he kept 6-year-old in the dressing room having a go at you, discussing tactics. I wonder what a guy like this is now at the moment. I can see his face. But to be fair to him, he treated you very well. You were underage. He took you up there. Yeah. So that was just the philosophy he had. He was very, very serious. But I remember that being a dad, following you playing for Eintracht Frankfurt. A small thing. I remember that game you scored a goal. You didn't have socks or something. You know, this is the whole.
I remember well. Yeah, I remember
the family story as it goes. But you played for Eintracht Frankfurt with a mad coach. So did I. I had Felix Magath, but Felix Magath had a proven record. To be fair to him, winning the double twice in a row with Bayern Munich. On that note, when we start talking about your socks when you were a 6-year-old, we started with you playing at Counterground in a charity game for Swindon. I think that we are looking forward to the last 2 games of the Bundesliga. They've said so many times that it's a farmers' league because Bayern always end up winning. They can still do. I think if you're going to put your safe money, you will put it on Bayern. But there are still things to be done. Bayern playing in Leipzig, against Leipzig at home. Marco Rose, former Dortmund coach, could make Dortmund champion. Dortmund have a hurdle in Augsburg run by Stefan Reuter, one of the Bayern Munich legends. Not Augsburg, a city not far from Munich. And in the last game, then Dortmund at home against Mainz, they will win that clearly. And then Bayern playing in Köln. I mean, you just hope that Stefan Baumgartner and Köln, with a fantastic atmosphere, that will be a title decider. That's going to be a big historic game, I got a feeling.
Yep, the last remaining major league with a title race, and one of the most tightest relegation battles in the Bundesliga as well. So a lot to look forward to that. So thanks for a very enjoyable chat, and then we will catch up next week.
Auf Wiedersehen.